Is good, everybody out there? Thanks again for checking in with Court Thoughts, the channel where we basically talk basketball. A couple of weeks ago, I was actually catching up with some friends, and one of my mates, shout out to Peppy, came up to me and was like, "Hey bro, like what's your beef with Ben Simmons? Why haven't you done a reaction on Ben Simmons? The only videos I've seen of you is you talking crap about him in my previous videos on T-Talk. If you want to go ahead and check them out, go ahead and do that." I felt like I had to justify my point, and I explained I don't have a problem with the guy's style of play. In fact, I love the way that he plays, but I had a lot of issues with the way that he carries himself and some of the decisions that he made, whether it was about representing his country, with the shenanigans that was going on at Philadelphia at the time. And so after having this chat, my mate goes, "Listen, you need to give him some respect and do a reaction to him." So you know what? I thought that's exactly what I'm going to do. Especially now that he's coming back into the fold of him being in an active rotational position on the Brooklyn Nets. Let's do this. Let's see if the Ben Simmons from Philly has really migrated and matured coming over into the Brooklyn Nets. I'm really eager to see what that looks like. The video itself is from ESPN, so as always, guys, go ahead, give him a subscribe, like, follow, do all that good stuff. I'll leave the link in the description, but it's a season-high performance against the Grizzlies, dropping 22 points and 8 rebounds. All right, so look, let's get straight into it. Let's check out the video. Okay, guys, let's check out ESPN's video. Let's do it. Okay, good body. Yeah, great contact. Running the floor, love it. Sending a little bit stale there, but overall good. Good movement. Active. Good bump. Love that turn hook. A lot of guards need to be able to do that too. A lot of guards should be able to use that hook, those little post moves. They are highly effective and do come in handy. Screen and roll. Ooh. I gotta watch that again. That little slip through was nice. Notice how he's watching the floor. Active screener, slip. Good switch up. Like it. Love it, love it. Good positioning as well. Looking at the floor in the right way. You want to have your back to the baseline. You don't want to have your back to the court. Woo. Keeping him guessing with the handle. Yee! Yeah, Paddy. The Aussie connection here. Yeah, get it. Get it. Love that fake. A lot of work happening with the screens too. Holding on that screen really well. Ooh, good control. Just being there and then knowing when to slip and when to stay is really, really good. Finding that space. Love it. Soft finish. Calling up. Yes. The art of deception just by doing this. Making the defender go, oh, okay, he's coming. Being in the right position. Love it. Love it, love it, love it. Big Steve doing the right things, contesting the shot. Running the floor, pushing the pace. Dragging the attention out. Getting into space again. Look, see how he slips out of the way? Because he thinks that he's going to go left. He thinks KD is going to go left, so he opens out. Great work. Reads the movement. Great use of the hook. Love it. Prepared. Prepared to catch the ball. There we go. Calls for the ball. Runs the floor. Yee! Love it. Collecting the ball, running the floor again. Great work, great work. When you're running down the floor, when you're running down the set, you want to kind of run to the center of the court if you've got that open opportunity to, and just let everyone else filter out. Again, getting into that danger spot. Beautiful, 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 beautiful. Really well-rounded game. Love it, love it, love it. Okay, guys, as always, I gotta come back at you with that detailed analysis. Let's get into it. Now, the first thing that I want to talk about is being an active threat. I covered this a little bit on the Russell Westbrook episode where I was talking about movement. And movement for me is really, really important. Movement and floor positioning is basically going to be one of the most effective ways in breaking down a defense. You can have one player and they can be an effective scorer, but by putting that whole entire workload onto that one person to either be a Kyrie Irving and dribble through the world, or even the likes of Steph Curry and have to shoot from half court to try and get a good shot off, it ends up becoming very difficult to maintain. Basketball is absolutely a game of ebbs and flows. You're going to have sections where you're playing fantastically, and you're going to have sections where you play like absolute crap. To be able to maintain and create as many opportunities as possible, you have to be threats. You have to be out onto the floor. Now, if you don't have the ball, that doesn't mean that you're not an option to receive the ball. You want to actively be an option to receive the ball. You want to be prepared to receive the ball. And this is what I really mean when I'm talking about being an active threat. If I sit off in the corner and I don't move, well, I'm not really a threat. So the defender's going to treat me like that. Now, if we look back, see a lot of the actions that were taking effect from Ben bringing the ball down the court, there was a lot of high pick and roll actions. Basically, there's a screening action that's happening at the top where either Ben is performing a DHO or a dribble handoff where he's dribbling towards his teammate, and he's basically then extending the ball out a little bit to allow his teammate to run on and collect the ball, and he actively screens, or whether he's actually passed the ball on and then setting a screen. So he's basically trying to create this level of separation. The reason why the NBA utilizes this a lot is to try and create this little bit of a step of delay. The defense has to react to it. So whether they decide to switch, or whether they decide to try and hedge and allow the defender to recover, so the big man's going to show up really fast and try and, you know, distract them a little bit to stop them from being a threat. But when you have a guy like Ben Simmons, who I think is like 6'10", plays as a point guard primarily, the point guards that you're dealing with in the NBA are going to be on a median height of about 6'2". So if he's extending the ball out and his frame, he's a lot wider and a lot stronger than most of these guards are going to be able to handle. And this is part of the reason why you could see Big Steve Adams was defending him when he was getting down into the post. If you're looking at how they react to that pick and roll action, I think that they did overall well, but the point that I wanted to talk about is being an active threat in those actions. If you see that when he's putting the ball out for that dribble handoff, when Ben's got the ball out here, he's not fully extending his arm, he's kind of keeping it tight. There's also a couple of times where he can see that the defender's really close to the person that he's essentially going to provide the handoff to. So he puts a second hand to it and protects the ball. The ball is your ultimate weapon, but it's also your ultimate weakness. So you want to be able to secure it at all times, maintain as much possession of the ball. So when you see that he then switches his body and positions his body, he's doing it in a way to allow his teammate to get into space. So he's being an active threat by allowing his teammate to be an active threat. This just creates opportunity. And guys, I've said this so many times. Basketball is all about opportunities, creating as many as possible and maximizing them when you have them. It's really what it is. You don't want to sit stagnant. There was a couple of clips there you could see he kind of passes the ball and sits and ball watches. Like I mentioned before, I covered it very much in detail on the Russell Westbrook video. Go ahead and check it out. But you want to move. Don't stand still. Once you get rid of the ball, that doesn't mean your job's done. You need to move, go and hit someone with a screen, get into space. This is the type of things that you want to do. The flow on from that is also his positioning. Now, I'm going to call this flow positioning, because it's not just your one position that you're getting into the court, but it's reading how you're moving into space. That's going to be my next point. Flow positioning. Flow positioning for me is all about reading what your teammate is doing and then moving into the right spot to be a threat. Now, again, focusing on that active threat, we could see in one possession, KD's dribbling the ball down and is coming into the middle of the court. And Ben is kind of in that low post region. Now, what Ben decides to do is actually start to drift out. Number one, really important that you don't get in your teammate's way because, well, if you get in your teammate's way, what's going to happen? Your defender is going to essentially adjust and can double team your teammate and make your job harder or make your team's job harder. So spacing out is really good, but also reading when I'm spacing out, am I still a scoring threat? If you just move to get out of the way and you kind of drift out too far or you don't drift out enough, it's going to make it really difficult to allow your team to have success. So when you're looking at the floor, you need to be able to see, okay, he's looking to drive this way. Let me open out a little bit to give him a little bit more breathing space to take that angle. All this stuff is happening on the fly. So it really just comes down to developing your IQ. If you just watch the next time that you're playing basketball, look at where you are on the floor and actively think, am I in the best position I can be in? If you focus about doing that, it's going to get you to actively move, and your team obviously needs to be cohesive in that way as well. They're going to move around as well. You'll shift, you communicate. You do a lot of these things, it's going to make your job a little bit easier in being able to achieve that. The other thing that we can see, and I absolutely touch on this in the Kai Soto video, you want to get into the danger zones. When you get into the danger zones, it allows you, based on your flow on positioning, based on your movement on the court, to be able to get the ball, but effectively be a scoring threat straight away. How can we see this? Well, we know that Ben Simmons isn't really going to shoot that three. So he's going to go down into the low block. We could see an instance where Kyrie Irving is actually driving along the baseline. What does Ben Simmons do? He stays within that open pocket that's between the two defenders that are crowding him. But you want to be in an active threat so that way you can receive the ball and go straight into the score. You might not necessarily be as athletically gifted or physically gifted as, say, someone like Ben Simmons. So that might mean just getting into the deep corners so that the defenders forget about you. Or if you see that they forget about you and you're in the deep corner and you're in a bad position, move. Get up a little bit more. Get into that sort of free throw extended position. Have your hands ready so that the ball can come to you and you can go straight into your shot, and the defense is going to have to worry about you all the time. They can be concerned where you are on the court. Be a threat. Now, the last thing that I'm going to talk about is pacing. Now, growing up in basketball, I primarily played within the guard positions, and the big thing that all players need to actively understand is pacing. Do we need to push the pace? Do we need to play fast? Do we need to play slow? And a lot of the time, this is dictated by the point guard. They are literally looking at how fast do we need to get down the court? Do we need to get down faster? Do we need to get down slower? Do we need to play a little bit more grit and grind? And what plays do we need to run? They're essentially an extension of the coach on the court. Going down the court, if I can go down the center of the court, I really want to do that. Now, I know a lot of coaches will have differing opinions on where you should be positioned on the court, and in no way, shape, or form am I saying that my opinion on this is the best way possible, but let me explain a little bit more detail. If I'm coming down the center of the court, ultimately what that does is it creates opportunities. It gives me the opportunity to go to the right. It gives me the opportunity to go to the left. If I go to the left, I can only go to the right. Meaning if I'm in the left half of the court, I can only really go to the right. I can't keep going to the left because there's a sideline there, right? And as a defender, I might look to try and trap that in the corner. I might make it a lot more difficult. I may have help defense coming across, and it's just going to force those bad passing reactions. So I personally go down the center of the court as much as I physically can. Now, this isn't always going to be the case. There is going to be circumstances where you kind of have to zigzag down the court. Really got to play smart. A perfect example of someone who defensively tries to make that happen is Marcus Smart. I think he said something along the lines of,
"He supposed to be going, you know what I'm saying? You're south, he going east and west, that's what I win that match."
Going down the middle of the court, we could see that guys like Ben Simmons, who use this very much in the same way. He's flowing down the center of the court, but he's actively looking at who his passing options are. We can see that he's able to hit these dump passes off to the corners and then still be able to continue on with the movement down the center of the court, so we can run a give and go type play where I'm literally passing the ball. The defense then shifts to that player. I keep running. I get into an open spot to get the ball back and go straight up. It's one of the oldest plays in the book, along with the pick and roll. If I get 5 easy transition buckets throughout the game, that's 10 points. That might be the difference in the score come towards the later end of the game. We can just be aggressive with the actions that we have, whether we have the ball or whether we don't have the ball. If I have the ball and the team is playing slow, meaning the defensive team is playing slow, I'm going to look to try and push the pace, because I don't want to play at your speed. I want you to react to me. Play wise, play smart, look to try and push the pace when you can, but also look to try and slow the pace when you can. I think that things like basketball IQ, I think things like spacing, and I think a lot of things like pacing in what I'm talking about right now, you get to learn it a lot more the more repetition that you have on the court in applying these thinkings, these thought processes. The biggest thing that I took away from why Ben's game in this particular video that we watched was super effective. It was being an active threat. If there was an opportunity to score, he scored. If there was an opportunity for him to grab a board and reclaim that possession for his team, he did it. If there was an opportunity for him to push the ball up and get an assist, he did it. Doing the little things makes the bigger job easy. The last thing that I want to comment to is specifically about more on the aspect of Ben Simmons. And this is something that I want to pay the right amount of respect to. As an advocate for mental health, I know that Ben Simmons has spoken about his struggles and battles with mental health. I commend Ben Simmons for talking about his mental health struggles, and I recommend anyone out there that is going through any issues with mental health, either directly or indirectly, your partner, your children, your mates, whatever the case, let them know that they can go ahead and seek some guidance to get themselves onto the right path. This channel right here is all about spreading love and awareness about the game of basketball. No animosity comes from here. I know I had some tough words that I said about Ben Simmons. It's all in love. It's all because I want this man to be recognized as the greatest Australian player in the history of the game of basketball. There's not a lot of Aussies that have gone into the NBA. So for him to be an active top reference person is something that makes me so proud as an Aussie to have someone like him out into the stratosphere of players, but as also someone who respects, understands, and appreciates the value in mental health. And for someone like him, a caliber of player that's getting his media attention to be talking about mental health, I really do appreciate all that he's doing in that space. Guys, first and foremost, I want to thank ESPN for the video. I know that it's been a long time coming in me doing an updated reaction or breakdown on a player. I had a little bit of a break with a lot of stuff that's happening on my second channel, Court Thoughts Gaming. It's taken a lot of my attention, and there's a lot of editing stuff that I'm having to work out for both of them, but I'm actively pushing to make sure that I keep you guys educated. I keep you guys informed about what I see in the game of basketball. I am actively working on a bigger project within the Court Thoughts area on basketball. I can't speak too much on it now, but I do highly suggest stay connected with your boy. How can you do that? Well, first and foremost, like and subscribe. Easiest way to show me some support as a small-time creator is to hit that like and subscribe button, especially as I'm currently pushing to hit my new milestone of 10K subs. Also, you can go ahead and check out my Facebook page. Not only is it the easiest way to get in contact with me, but it's also one of the best ways to stay informed about what is happening in my world. Am I putting a video out? Do I have another project that's going on? You want to know? Go ahead and check it out. So guys, make sure you're looking after yourself. Hey, you notice that I say that all the time, right? Make sure you're looking after yourself. You take care and you be safe. Until I see you next time. Peace.